Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with an athlete who came to Canada at 11 years old as a refugee from Ukraine. She is 36 years old now and a mother to a teenager and a 1.5-month old. I believe I got that, or 1.5.
1.5-year-old.
Years old, who recently prepped 4 weeks postpartum, and she has been working as an operating room nurse at a trauma center for 10 years while getting an invention patented with her sister, which I'm very curious about.
Yeah.
She has been a posing coach since 2017, and her clients have totaled 18 overalls, 125 first places, and 7 pro cards. She herself has competed in 15 shows since 2015 and won her first pro qualifier in 2018 as an IFBB Pro Elite right when the association split. So she then switched to the NPC and earned her pro card after 4 shows to ultimately win it at the Toronto Pro Qualifier as the Masters 35 and up overall champion before going on to place top 5 out of 12 competitors at the Toronto Pro Show. Welcome to the podcast, Kateryna Kauffmann. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you. That was awesome. I'm doing good. I mean, I'm excited to be on here. Thank you so much for having me on here. So this is, I'll share as much as I can without boundaries, and yeah, anything is. I'm gonna try to be an open book. So.
Yay. I love to hear that. And I know the listeners do too, because generally we can get into some really awesome topics, and I have a lot to cover with you. And by the way, to everybody who's listening to this, we are also doing this as a video format. So if you head over to celestial_fit on YouTube, you'll be able to watch this podcast as well. I know some of you guys like to watch. So Kateryna just made a face. You won't want to.
You got to go watch it. Yeah.
So yeah, if you wanted to watch this along, and some of you guys like watching it or cardio, so I do it every once in a while now. It seems to be growing in popularity with the videos, so we decided to do that thanks to Kateryna. So let me start with the first question, and that is there anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage?
No, actually, I am so content, and I pose every day, many times a day, check-ins, but when I hit that stage, that like my body just like my mind, it's at peace. There's zero worries, there's zero regrets, and like the best one for me was Toronto Pro Show, because you're a pro athlete, there's no expectations of you, because that's your first time stepping. And I felt the most content, and like I just thought of that routine that morning. I practiced different variations, but it was that morning that I was like, this is me. And so everything was just like I was like focused and in the zone. That's where I was. So when my heels hit the stage, I say, like, game on, let's go. Yeah.
Love that. And you just brought up something which I found really fascinating about your pro debut, which is that you developed your routine the morning of, and you did say it felt so much like you. So what did you do to piece that together for yourself and have it feel so comfortable?
Like, when did I piece it together?
Like, how did you do that? How did you go about doing that?
So I I know all my angles. I'm versatile, like in both different directions, different sides. So when you have more angles, there's a lot more variations that you can do. So then you have to think, okay, well, which one is the best? They're both quite evenly, and to regular, to an audience, it might not mean much. Even to some of the maybe judges, it might not mean much. But when you so self-analyze and watch and practice your eye and your moves, those subtle differences are, you know, they do make a different a bit look, but it's also not how it looks, it's also how it feels. And you got to know how you're going to step on stage with what kind of feeling. You have to prepare for it, you have to envision it. So when you step on stage, you know, yeah, like all those moves, they're enhanced. So
Mm.
it's whatever you did, it should even look better because it's the moment. You're in that space where you can do this. You're not just pretending to be in front of an audience, in front of the judges. There's lights, hair, heels, tan, makeup, glam, you know, so you are stepping into that spotlight and it all just ties in. So when I, you know, thought of the routine, that's what I envisioned. I envisioned that spotlight and I was like, yep, this one, this is it. This is me. So, yeah.
That is super cool. You specifically said angles. You know your angles. How could
Yes.
somebody learn their angles?
Well, how I started was doing lots and lots of photo shoots. I was working with a photographer, you know, and different photographers, and so you practice your angles. You'll review your pictures. I've ordered all stage photos, and sometimes I get like up to 100 per show. And I review them and I'm like, these have to be picture perfect. So then you learn. So then you go back to the drawing board, you know, and then you do your videos and you watch them, you analyze them, you take pictures, put them side by side, you study it. You're like, okay, this is what I felt when I hit this pose. And this is what I felt when I hit this one, but I like this one better. So I need to go for that feeling. It's a little bit more advanced. Like if you're doing it yourself, like it's harder because you have to see based on what it felt. So sometimes I'll do a video and I tweak. And I'm like, okay, I like this one better. And then I got to go back into that feeling that I like the look.
Is the
So yeah.
feeling confidence that you're trying to exude, or is okay?
No, it's so it's the mind to muscle connection, very much like I really relate posing to a lot like training. You know, the first time you train a muscle group, you're like, okay, this feels off. After you've done it 10 times, you're like, it feels different than the first time. So that's the same thing with posing. When you hit your front pose and or your back pose or your transitions, you're going for the feeling that you need to tune in with your body. So like you know your front pose, just for instance, sometimes you need to feel that twist, right? Not sometimes, all the time. You need to feel that twist. Some people feel that twist a lot worse than others, and that's because due to flexibility or lack of, you know, that twist becomes extremely challenging, and then it challenges your vacuums, and then it challenges your how you position yourself on that front leg, and it just doesn't jive sometimes. So flexibility, you have to do that too. So when I'm going for that feeling, it's not the confidence, it's what I'm supposed to feel when I move. Because when I'm on stage, I flow, but really I'm inside my body going for those feelings in order to nail those poses. And that's actually what occupies your mind on stage. This is one way to kind of prevent yourself from like everyone experiences some stage anxiety, or which is good. A little bit of it is good because it keeps you focused, but too much is not good because then it goes, you know, your things aren't going as planned. So when you focus on those feelings and those things that you know are still not totally like a habit, it gives you um your mind a job, so then it doesn't skyrocket and goes into this big anxiety and whoop, and you know then you're like you're doing something else, and then you're getting frustrated or you know nervous, and then you're walking off funny. So give your mind a job to do, and it kind of keeps you focused rather than escalate the anxiety. Yeah.
Such a good point, especially if every time you practice your posing, your mind is just thinking about all the negative things that maybe you see
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
feel. You're like training it and it sounds like you do this probably with your clients too. I'm imagining like training
Yep.
them to be
I
occupying their
uh-huh.
mind with the process more than anything.
Yeah, it's the process. So like but yeah, you have to start preparing them for the stage, and that mindset, like so they're focused, right? So when you're posing, go for what it feels, because it's when you're on stage, you're by yourself. That's what you're going to be feeling. So you need to practice it. Of course, there's, different sensory, like stage lights, and movement and people. So you need to tune back and get in that zone of what you feel when you do your check-ins and pull it back together and go for that feel. Yeah.
You also mentioned you put photos side by side from other shows and you'll
Mhm.
redo your posing, see how it feels. And because of the success of your clients, I'm going to dig a little bit there. Do you take that same level of attention to detail to them as well?
Absolutely. So when we do posing sessions, I always take beginning and when we fine tuned, because to be in order to learn, it's not just me telling you, it has to be me showing you, then me mentioning a couple times, because sometimes it takes time to trigger. You're like, oh, that's what she meant. I know she said it 10 times, but now I get it. It's like you have those aha moments. And then it's showing you
Mm.
of what you look like here and what you look like there. And then you have a preference. You're like, I want to look like this on stage. So it practices, it allows you to practice your eye. So when you are doing your check-ins, you can see those things. You know what? I didn't do this because I know what it's supposed to look like and I know it can look better. So it's also giving back the clients, like to show them the difference and putting the responsibility on them as well to practice and try to hit that, because I can see who's practiced between the posing sessions and who hasn't. And if they have, like when, and most of them do, it's just sometimes it's hard. There's going to be always, some progress lost, but it's so easy to bring it up to speed and then continue progressing past that. So yeah, I do with the clients. I always put side by side, X check mark, and then after, usually more advanced athletes, I put the side by side, sometimes in different order. What do you see here? And then they have to tell me. So this is when they're already, advanced, and now we're practicing. Now I'm pushing them to see more. What errors do you see here? And then they'll tell me. So yeah.
I think that's really insightful, especially because when you're practicing or posing, I think, especially if you're new, I remember when I was new, it was like, I think I just go through my whole routine. But as I've grown in this sport, I've realized it's so much more helpful when I focus on, I need to fix my back pose. Okay, I need to
Right.
fix my,
It's
and
a
then I can,
sequence.
yes, because then
Stages.
I
Yeah.
feel it
Yeah.
like,
hmm
oh, my foot was a little out, but I couldn't remember how my foot felt when I was just practicing the full routine versus
hmm
back pose, transition, transition.
hmm And the more you do that, the more you're like, even like if you do, like I say, like, okay, once we have your routine down, you can get it right, but our goal is to put miles on it. So you got to do it 1,000 times to bring that margin of error down. So the goal is to hit that stage and make that margin of error small as possible so you can bring your absolute best, because that's what matters, how you present yourself, and bringing your physique to the best possible way that fits the criteria that you're, in the category that you're in. So yeah.
Definitely. Now, do you do CPA and NPC and IFBB or
Only. hmm
okay,
hmm
that's what
I used to
I
do
was
the other one and I know how, but it's just like it's too much branching out, and it's like you're getting so busy. You gotta, stay focused and get even better at it. So, and then I do bikini figure and wellness. So like I'd rather invest into that and just continue excelling at those. So, and that keeps me busy. So it's good.
oh, I bet. I bet you are.
Yeah.
And you're what we had talked about in the intro was how impressive that those results have been for your clients. So
Mhm.
something I was hoping you'd share is what you notice, or maybe what judges have shared with you, if that's happened ever, or with your athletes, that has set those people apart who has been successful from maybe the athletes next to them on stage.
So I do hear the judges say, like the head judges, like they turn around, they're like, I can see which girls posed with you because of how they pose. And it's not that it's my style. It's not my style. It's just what looks confident. And I explain to the athletes, like, go to the grocery store, just scan the grocery store. Take a look and see which person stands out to you and why. It's usually the
Mm.
posture. Most
Yeah.
of them are down into their business, don't want to be bothered. They don't want to bother anyone. And that's how you look on stage if you're nervous. You don't want to be a bother, but you're not confident. So your shoulders slouch. When your shoulders slouch, your glutes drop, all of that. You got to stand nice and tall. And so from the moment you walk on to the moment you walk off, you got to hold that posture and hold that confidence. So, and yeah, like I just simply say, like, scan the grocery store. Which person stands out? You want to be that kind of person on stage. You want to set that bar high and you want to make a statement, right? Because again, at the end of the day, it's bringing your best. And when you're slouching and, hiding your strengths, that wasn't your best. So like with the feedback that you get based on that, it's just, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I know what your feedback is going to be. It's going to be this, because like, and then I'll say like, like I reviewed your videos. I always like to get the videos with the clients after to review, ask them what they see wrong. First, I ask them how they did and how they felt. Then we see the video, then we dissect it, then that's how we go on to the next one. The first show is always challenging to predict because it is their first, they don't know how, unless they haven't been on stage, like they don't know how they're going to react. So we try to practice as much as possible. That's when I say miles on those routines, to bring that margin of error of doing something that you don't expect to do, that it's less likely. So, and then, yeah, what their past experiences, some are athletes, gymnasts, they usually can tolerate that pressure because they have that competitive nature. So that's, I also take that into consideration. And some do public speaking. I pull that in. It's like, hey, let's bring your strengths. Let's use them, pretend you're about to go on stage in public speaking. This is nothing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. Taking that strengths-based approach so the client already feels a level of
Mhm.
confidence that
Right.
maybe
Right.
isn't there before, especially for a first-time competitor. I imagine that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
They can't relate, right? But it's like, yes, we all have tools that we can use and we build upon in order to bring out your best. It's you. That's why this sport is very much like, oh, this is you versus you. You can't look at other people. And like one of the main things is like the walk. People think there's some stage walk. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's your walk. It's what's going to be the most confident. It's your, with minor tweaks, but it's your stride, your confidence. That's your natural walk, how you walk to the car. I see them walk on a certain way and walk off. They're like, okay, I'm going to retry this again. And when they walk off, I'm like, what's wrong with that walk? Let's do that again. And so they're like, oh, like, really? Yeah, that's confident. I can work with that. Whatever walk you're trying to imitate from someone else, they're doing it better because that's their walk. So you got to keep your individuality, your personality. So I just keep it, and that again brings the strengths forward because you can sit there and focus on all the weaknesses, but it's not doing you any good. We work on the weaknesses and we pull your strengths to make you that much better.
I think that's a really positive approach. And when I think about when I was a new competitor and how I felt through that process, I think just that first experience makes such an impact on your view moving forward too. So to have the positive focus, it feels so much more encouraging. And then as you progress as an athlete, like now that I've done a lot of shows, I can look back and be like, I have bad habits, you know? So now as an advanced athlete, there's certain bad habits that I'm trying to change. And it takes, like you said, the miles. So I'm having to put in almost like extra reps than I've ever done before
Mhm,
because
mhm,
I
mhm.
practice. Okay, if I practice every day in my improvement season, these terrible bad habits, I need to
Right,
practice like almost at least 1.5 times more this time to
right.
fix those things.
But see how you're like, I got to practice more because now I have to undo what I did. And just think of it as progress, never perfection. And when you think of it as that, hey, this is what I'm going to do about it. And then this is how I'm going to work through it. And then you'll get there. Then you just put in the work. Don't question it. Don't overthink it. Just go with it. And you know that you're making a change. Awareness, I always say awareness is key. When you're aware that you have a bad habit or something that you want to change, the change will come as long as you have an open mind. So that's it. Yeah.
Agreed. I noticed too then when I'm doing like my check-ins to my coach, I'll feel it. Like we were talking
Mhm.
about the body connection. Like I feel it and I'm like, go back. Let's try it again.
Right,
I don't even
right.
have to rewatch it because I
Nope.
felt it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, that in tune, you're feeling. And that's what you need to sharpen for stage. So, what you're feeling on stage are the right feelings that you've been practicing and working. Like when my heels step on stage, like, I'm thinking, okay, that walk, that back. And I'm like, okay, my spine's aligned, my balance is there. Now we jive with it. So, that's you got to keep practicing, but it's never, you can't over practice. Oh, sometimes if you're frustrated and then, you're like, I can't get this, walk away from it because your body's too tense. And I see
Yeah.
that with some of the athletes, when they come on, to do a posing session, I can see already in their body language that they're tense. Something has built up there and they're holding. We break it down. Sometimes I have tears. Sometimes I have, I can see they're angry. We break it down. And after that, they move, their body's driving. You need to release that tension. And that's something that we do throughout our daily lives. This is what I love about the sport, is that it's so parallel to our lives, that we can apply everything to outside of bodybuilding. So that's what we work on. I said, hey, listen, if you come on backstage like this, feeling like this, just know that you can alleviate the pressure and let your body do the posing. So
Mm.
I practiced this and I said, yes, it's unfortunate it's happening, but we're going to use it as a learning experience. And then you can be confident enough that you can turn it around before the stage. Sometimes they rush you on stage. Like there's been girls that missed right in front of me, their class, and one that just made it and she literally just bolted out and she composed herself. So, and that's what you need to do. Whatever happened backstage doesn't matter. When you walk on that stage, when your heels hit the stage and the lights, it's you. You don't bring anyone with you in your mind. It's all you, all your hard work. Go for the feel. And that's what makes you feel at peace.
Ooh, I especially like that for people who maybe are worried about blacking out or getting too nervous, because what you're
Mhm,
saying
mhm,
is by practicing being in your body, regardless of what's happening, your body's going to
mhm,
execute for you.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like that's why I recommend practicing not just in the same between the same four walls that you normally do. Even turning around your phone, now not facing the window, facing away, changes things for you. So you're not adapting to the environment, but you're adapting to the feeling that
Hmm.
you're moving your body within that environment. So the stage is not so, it doesn't throw you off the stage, because you just continue practicing and building that connection with how things feel rather than what they look like around. It's harder because your visual cues want to take over, but you got
Hmm.
to get in that zone. So in order to really be your best, and then those minutes, like sometimes you're there, maybe for 15-second routine, right? It feels like 10 minutes
Yeah.
because you're in the moment. It's like holding a plank. Those 15 seconds feel a long time, for something like 30 seconds. It's
Yeah.
like that, but in a positive way. So if you can make a plank and the Stairmaster feel like it's an eternity, you can do exact same thing when you're on stage, but
Beautiful.
positive experience. So you know how you felt and you can relive that moment rather than it's like, I don't know what happened. It just kind of happened all so quick, but that takes time. So it's not going to happen on your first show. Might not happen on your second show, but as you put miles on that routine, it happens. You become more confident. You can see the judges' faces rather than looking past them. So,
Yeah.
mhm,
Absolutely. That's such great insight. I've never heard that nugget before of adapting to your body versus the environment. I
mhm,
think that was a really good one. So I wanted to repeat it in case anyone missed it because it was awesome. And I actually am curious how you established yourself as a posing coach. Even I believe you did this before you went pro, and you were very
mhm.
successful. So how did you establish yourself that way? And did you experience any like doubt in yourself or fear or imposter syndrome? Because I've heard that from other people who want to start coaching in whatever industry or whatever way, but they worry because they don't have a particular name or title that they can't.
Well, that's the thing. You said fear. If you fear something, you gotta do it, because it's something so big, so great, maybe above who you are right now, but it's someone that you got to grow into in order to make it. No one is ever like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be so, because I'm so perfect at it. No, you're going to have a learning curve, right? And so for me, I did ballroom dancing for, in Ukraine, and we traveled. So that was kind of like my sport, and we've trained for it, 3 times a week, 3 hours. Sometimes there's seminars and they're longer. So that was, up until I was like 9 years old. And then there was like, so, and then like there was a period where I wasn't totally competitive into any sports or anything. Like I did sports, and I tried to do gymnastics, and I found that I was being stalled. So I practiced a lot on my own, and so, to me, you lose that drive. So eventually, I went into nursing, school's busy, I had my 15-year-old, went to university while she was little, doing nursing. She's like 2 years old. And
Oh,
so, just different goals, but it's always in the back of my mind, like, what can I do? And then I, stumbled upon bodybuilding and bikini division, and they're posing. And I was like, I can do this. I can
hmm.
do this. I want to do this. So, and then how do you do it? Jump right into it. Scares you? Yes. Is that what you should be doing? Yes. So that's how you grow.
How cool is this story, this full circle moment of seeing the competing from the posing perspective to now being such a highly demanded posing coach?
It's like, I think it's the energy that when I pose with the athletes, I mean, during pandemic, people pose with me. There's no shows, they're canceled, but they just posed with me. And I think it was a form of therapy, right? So because I always say, like, you got to do self-care. You got to put yourself first. If, you got to always invest in yourself, make appointments for yourself with yourself. If you have a hard time saying, oh, I don't have time, no, it's just not priorities. And if it doesn't click that way, literally put into your, schedule appointment with myself for this. So when you do that, sometimes it changes it, and it does that. It's all in about how you think about things, but some people just have a harder time getting there. So what I love to do is, to put things into perspective, and not by telling people what to do or how to do it, but by asking them the right questions. And sometimes they're like, oh, I hope I can do this. And I'm like, hope? Did you do cardio today? Yeah. Did you train today? Yeah. Did you follow your diet? Yeah. And you did that all week? Yeah. Why are you giving hope credit? Who's hope? Like,
Yeah.
own it. Own it. Go with it. You're doing this. So, but it's a shift from who they were to who they're becoming. But our identities changes based on our behaviors, not what we say we're going to do. It's what we're doing consistently. And sometimes the mind hasn't adapted yet, so that hope is still comes out. And then, and then when I say it that way, I'm like, no, own it. I
Yeah.
got this. I'm doing this. And that's where that's the shift athletes need to bring their confidence. It doesn't come from just 1,000 times doing posing. It's coming to work in within. So I listen to how they speak, and then we work on that, because that becomes their daily habits, and and once that changes, you see an amazing growth. And to me, the biggest purpose of this posing is seeing how athletes change as people and bringing out the best in themselves. It's not the best posing routine. It's not the award. It's first thing I ask is, how did you feel? And, they have so much, and you can tell the ones that are really for it for the right reasons, because they're like, this was such an incredible moment. Like, I can't believe I did this, but I believe it. I've worked for it. And it's like, you're like, this is how they can enjoy the sport. It's tough. It's tough. It's 24-hour sport, but
Hmm.
this is how enjoy those moments and those small victories, because you're no longer, the person you thought that couldn't do this. You are now the person that did this, and what else are you capable of? So,
Beautiful. Rewind and press play again. Let's listen
all
back.
right.
That was awesome. I
I
love
couldn't
that
have write
answer.
that. I couldn't have written that. Yeah. I just, speak from the heart and
Yes.
my passion. So, yeah, no. And every time I meet new people, I love it. It's like new client. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's see, and, there are some unique challenges. Everyone is different, but then after you've posed with so many, there are some similarities that you know how to work through faster. And
Mhm.
then there is the ones that challenged me, and I was like, I love this. Let's figure this out. So,
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that perspective as well. And
yeah,
everything you shared too about like letting go of the hope mentality, especially when you've been doing it,
yeah,
is
yeah,
so key because you're right. It does take time to
yeah,
almost like grieve the old identity and accept
right.
that this
The
is you
new,
now.
that
Mhm.
you are living and breathing this new you. So, and we have to celebrate those victories. So, like you do your check the boxes for the day in the evening, you become content with it. You can celebrate it a little bit, victory, but next day it's back to zero. In order to keep that identity, you got to keep doing the things that are required to match that person that you wanting to or you're striving towards. So that's a thing. You don't get comfortable, and with people with getting to the show, they think, okay, like, I've done the show, and usually it's hard after the reverse diet and things like that. Keep that identity. You are no longer the person you used to be. Continue. Why do they say keep the routine? Because the behavior is what shapes that identity. When you stop, you're no longer that person. And then you're having a hard time because you are not who you were just last week. And now you look different, you do things different. Recoup, snap out of it, go right back into those boxes.
If you've ever struggled in your prep or your improvement season or any transition phase in this sport, you know how valuable it is to have that direct guidance and support, but it's so difficult to find, which is exactly why I created the on-demand mindset coaching platform for competitors. That is only $9.99 per month. How it works is you log into the system and you select what season you're in, and then you're prompted to select a struggle you're facing, and then even more specific struggles branching off of that. And at your fingertips, you will be given direct guidance and support with a PDF resource as well as video trainings. And you have tons of access to years of group coaching calls that you're more than welcome to replay and watch, and you get access to a live group coaching call every single month. So you're not only getting support at your fingertips, but you're also getting an incredible community there to support you along your journey. If this is something you're interested in learning more about and exploring, you can sign up at www.celestial.fit/on-demand and get access to this right away. There are no other join fees or cancel fees, so you can come and go as you please, and you are always welcome to be in the Build More Than Just a Body community.
Love that. Yes, it's like that made new every day mentality because we really are given the opportunity to improve and grow each and every single day. And that's part of what I personally love about this sport is what it gives my life and adds to my life, regardless of outcomes. It's like
Right,
it's
right,
so strange to think of not doing certain things that are just habits and normal now. It would
right,
be weird to just
right.
stop.
Yeah, you get lost. You're confused because, that's who you are. And that's the thing I realized, like during my pregnancy, my second pregnancy, I was training, waking up before my shift, training, doing meal prepping. Everything was exact same. I was just pregnant. So,
That's what I want to hear more about. So it's really impressive to me. You know, you're a mom, you work as a
mhm,
nurse, you have this
mhm,
amazing posing coaching business. You are married to your coach who has a
Umberto. Yeah, yeah.
yes, has a very successful business as well. And I just think there's a lot to learn about how much this lifestyle impacts us because of what you've been able to balance, but also you're patenting something with your sister. So I'm
Mhm.
like how you have supported your own schedule or mentality as you add more to your plate.
You get better at organizing and prioritizing. Main thing, if you don't make time for yourself, everything else becomes slowed down. So I wake up at 3 a.m. I do my reading, my mentalizing, and I explain this to people like when you wake up, you're like this dry sponge. You're ready to absorb anything that is incoming during the day. So I try to fill that sponge with all the good stuff before anyone tries to pour their negativity, project their negative energy, anything else onto it. Because when the sponge is full, it's no longer absorbing. It's just letting the outside drip. So sometimes having that analogy, your brain is like that sponge. It's ready for the day. It's primed. It's rested. It's ready to absorb and take in information. You got to choose what you take in, and you have to really prioritize. Same thing with like I don't go out for drinks. I don't drink. I don't go out for dinners. I have my close circle of people that I connect with, and they're understanding when I'm busy, and we connect through messaging and whatnot, voice notes, whatever. We connect, but they understand because these people are also just as busy with all the stuff. But that's what you got to do. You got to be surrounded with people who want to continue growing. And my husband and I, in the same household, and we're both just, pushing each other to, but we do make the time for each other. Our
Mm.
schedules are slightly different. I wake up at 3, he wakes up at 7, I go to bed at 7:38, he goes to bed midnight, but we connect in the middle.
Mm.
So but prioritizing, prioritizing, no excuses. That's the rule. So that's how you make things happen. I won't take more than I can handle.
Mm.
And some things just have to wait a little bit longer. And some things need to be done a little bit more urgently, but that's always like that. So yeah, you just prioritize. Really, really get good at prioritizing. But first and foremost, put yourself first. Fill that sponge with good stuff in the morning because you're very efficient. If you're saving that sponge for the end of the day, you are so slow, you can't move efficiently, you can't do things productively. It's not the same. Just do it for the morning, prioritize yourself. Then you feel content and well about you. And then you go on with that energy and beautiful things happen.
I really love your analogies. You have
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have a lot of great ones that you put
Yeah.
out. I'm like, this is really awesome.
It just makes sense, right? So but it's like when you understand, and that's what we do, like I try to give a rationale, because when people understand it, it makes sense. Then it makes sense to do it. And
Exactly.
it's how you can connect with people, right? If you're just throwing words, sometimes it's just in one ear out the other. Not that, it's a lot of information. But if you use an analogy, they think about it, and then you kind of plant that seed and let it grow.
Yes, definitely. And when you were talking about not taking on more than you can handle,
Mhm.
I thought back to a time when there was more coming on my plate, and I realized how much time was not being utilized as effectively as it could be because I was putting more on my plate. I became more, as you said, you get more organized, you get more strategic. That's exactly what I experienced myself was like, oh, I am spending a bit too much time on this, or I could hire someone to do
Right.
this part.
Right. So you got to check in with yourself and you got to be honest, right? So you got to see, okay, I don't have time. It's like, okay, instead of saying I don't have time, what time do I have? So you got to assess your day, what apps you're using in your phone, which ones are for for work, or which ones are for, you would know. And you can get the app and it tells you what's your daily usage. And you'll notice that as that daily usage increases, your irritability correlates to that quite well. And then when it reduces, you realize that you're like, I'm productive. I don't feel overwhelmed. So, it's how you stimulate your brain. And, social media, this instant gratification, it overstimulates rather quickly, and your brain just gets tired and or just hyper. And when it doesn't get something, it gets irritated. So you have to assess yourself, check in with yourself, and then see what you're doing and then what you can be doing better. That's really it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful process. And it kind of leads me to some other subject, which is, are you allowed to talk about the patent you're developing?
Mm, I mean, it's almost live. Like my business, I have the website so it can be viewed. So I'm going to talk about it because
Okay.
it's very, very close. I just have to just do final things. But so my sister and I, we've had 4 kids between each other, and her children, especially breastfed children, tend to poop like crazy, right? They spot everywhere. And so I got so tired. You're thinking, okay, like every time there's like these ideas online, like, oh, I'm gonna, you can do it like this, you can do this technique, but they spray, right? As soon as you wipe. So my sister and I are like, okay, we're tired. Like we're tired. The walls are covered, the carpets, the bedroom, whatever. It's up your sleeve. So it's like we've invented this invention that slides under your changing pad, and then it like blocks you, and then you put a sheet over it. So
Hmm.
if they spray, it covers under it, and if it pools, it's covered. So but it tends to not pool because it just sprays everywhere. So and some people are like, oh, you know what, I'll do it, I'll be fine during the day. It's like, that's all fine and dandy, but when you're changing half those diapers at night and you don't want to turn on the light and you hear that splat, it's like, okay, I gotta send her to my husband so I can deal with the mess for the next 3 hours, and that's your sleep. And when you're training, you have goals, it's a lot. So my sister created this prototype at home 7 years ago, and I was like, can you give that to me? I'm gonna use it. And how calm it made me feel using it every night. And I told her, I was like, we have to patent this. We have to make this work. I don't know anything about this, but we're gonna have a huge learning curve, and we're gonna do it, because I would hate it if someone came up with that. And so here we are. We
That's
have
awesome.
we have and it's yeah, like we have the sitting in my sister's garage. So now we're just, waiting on final things, and then we're gonna start sending to retailers. Yeah.
That is really cool. I just had a baby nephew. My sister just had her son. So
Mm-hmm,
he's only
mm-hmm.
once this episode comes out, it'll be more weeks added to this, but he's newborn pretty much. So
Yeah.
it's that's something they've been discussing is this.
Yeah, yeah. The dads have the funniest stories online. You read them and you're like, it's so funny how they describe this episode. So I was like, we gotta assist them.
I love that. Well, I also want to hear about you getting into nursing because you came to Canada. I'm in the
Mhm,
US, so when I say came to Canada, I'm not
mhm.
referring to where I'm at for
Yeah.
listeners. But you
Mhm.
came to Canada from the Ukraine as a refugee.
Correct.
How did you go through schooling? What was that process like for you, and why ultimately nursing? And then we'll definitely talk about your getting to Canada.
The process. Okay, so I didn't really know much English. So, we came here, and we just kind of started the same grade that we left. We know that our math was higher. We had like math, you don't need a language. So I was like, love that. Just they gave me the paper, and when my sister's name's Elena, but she, we both finished it so quick, and then they're like, oh, there's a backside. We're like, "No, yeah, we know, like the backside is filled." I didn't
Yeah.
need English, but it took time to learn English, the way you want to express yourself. And so we relied a lot on body language, of trying
Mm.
to figure out what people say. So when I'm doing posing and stage presentation, it's the body language. So I take from what I see and I pretend like you can't verbally talk to the judges. You're going to do it with your presentation. So a lot of it, you know, we relied on body language and, you know, learned some English, and then, you know, kept going with the same grades. It was tough. Like we were studying till midnight and grade six, grade seven, grade eight. And then, you know, always studied late because it just didn't come to us as easily, right? It's like you're learning English and then you're learning biology. So you're learning two type of languages, you know, it's
Yeah.
not just English. So, um, but you know, then we went in and we're like, we wanted to be surgeons initially because we love surgeries. We love everything about it. And then we went into, you know, we decided to go through the nursing route first, and then we can use that as a backup for, you know, and carry on with med school if we wanted to. And you know, working in the operating room, and I see how the surgeons work and how much the family life is a lot more important to me
Mhm.
to be home. And I've done call shifts, you know, as a nurse. Like I used to do neuro call, well, I still do neuro call shifts, like for brain aneurysms or brain tumors that are bleeding, or you know, traumas. So and sometimes these calls are 72 hours. Sometimes I've had it up to 6 days, and they're all my 6 days off. So you know, you're always planning, always organizing. And so but at least I like, these surgeons are there all the time, and I love working with them, but I need my family time because I noticed that would change who I am. So when you realize that what you're okay to you know, give up, there's always, whatever you choose, you always have to decide what you're going to keep and what you're going to give up in order to move forward. And
Yeah.
those are the one of those things that I'm like, no. And I love nursing. I get to work with these surgeons. I love working with them. I love working with other nurses. It's, you know, it is the busiest hospital in our province, and you know, a lot of action, and that's why I'm probably not going to a different hospital, because I need that challenge. So you know, as we finished nursing and you know, went into it, I was like, I think this is where I'm going to stay. And then my dad was like, oh, you're not going to go to, you know, be a doctor? And I'm like, there's other ways I can grow. So here's a patent invention, different businesses, different, you know, here we are. I will never be comfortable
Mhm.
in my life, because I'm always looking for challenges. I'm looking for new experiences to grow. And you know, they can be so different from one another, like this spot shield, you know, versus this, you know, competitor, versus posing coach versus a nurse. So but somehow they all tie in who I am, right,
Yeah.
and who I want to become. So
That is so cool. And was that mindset developed before you came to Canada, or was it something that it was developed while there?
during it like it, so when we came from Ukraine, you know, we didn't have as much. So you come here, like I remember seeing the lockers in the school, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like in the movies. My sister and I were all over it. And I
Yeah.
did see a lot of students didn't appreciate a lot, or the respect towards the teachers wasn't the same as it was in Ukraine. It was very chill here. So we almost could like relax, you know, and just okay, we can, and just that relaxing feeling could actually help us to grow. Because when you're tense, you're always thinking, okay, like how are we going to do this, you know, or how are we going to, you know, um, what are we going to eat tomorrow? I mean, my dad did as good as he could, and he did well. But when we came here, you know, we didn't have much. So my sister and I had to go and start a job at like very early on. We had to get, you know, government like letter to approve that. So we start earlier so we can pay for our school, um, um, trips, field trips, and other things. So, you know, because my parents couldn't afford it, we would go with my parents to a job before school, and then after school, they'd pick us up and we'd go again to a cleaning job. So it develops through these hardships, right? So then you get to appreciate, and you're not afraid to work. You're not afraid to work hard. So you get to appreciate it after. So what I think what my dad really did is like it conditioned us to face the challenges and to continue moving forward. That didn't work. What's next? Let's try. There's always going to be next. So
I love that mentality and the way you explained your
mhm,
upbringing as well and how that influenced you and your
mhm,
gratitude and focus on growth. And I think your journey through competing kind of brings that together too. There's the topic of going pro in one federation and then it's splitting and going through the process again. I was curious what
mhm.
that was like for you to make that decision to I'm going to leave the one I went pro in and go to this one.
So it's like, okay, you got to start back up again, right? So you're like, hey, that's what I'm going to do then. I'm like, do I think I can't do it? No, I think I can do it. That's why I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to, doesn't matter how many times splitting changes happen, I'm going to keep going. So,
Mhm.
and that just, it proves with, this is after the baby. So it's like, it proves that if you set your mind up right and you're not afraid to face whatever challenges it is, and you're going to agree to do your best and overcome them in your best ability, and checking in with yourself. Am I overcoming them in my best ability, or am I trying to do a shortcut here?
Mhm.
Because those tired days, we're human. We get tired. Those are going to happen, but you got to know what your mind does when you are tired. So, and then you got to understand, okay, this is my tired speaking. And then you can get that second wind to keep moving. And all of a sudden, all this tired, everything drops within a second. And you know that, okay, that's that mindset shift that I've been looking for. So
Absolutely. And that is such a, I think that's like the champion mentality is I'm not willing to
yes.
settle for
Mhm,
being, taking the shortcut or settle for doing the bare minimum. It's
mhm,
like
mhm.
I have utilized yesterday's strength to be even better today, and we'll have our
Exactly.
day,
Oh yeah.
but it's doing the best we can that
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing is regretting that I didn't do my best. I don't know how much time I have on this earth. I want to make sure that whatever time I have, it's used to the best of my ability. I don't know if I'll get into, what if I can't move tomorrow? I'm gonna lay there in that bed and I know that I've done everything to the best of my ability. That mentally conserves you. Like it allows you to, it preserves you. Like, like you don't go as depressed and as, at least I don't think you would, because you literally lived your life to the fullest, to the best, highest potential you could. And so you got to think of, what am I going to think on my deathbed? I don't want to be thinking that, um, I wish I would have done that. I don't want
Yeah.
no regrets. So that's how I live my life every day. Yeah. So today, I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Here's what I did good today. That's a victory. Tomorrow, we're back to zero.
It reminds me of, I don't know who said it, but it stuck out to me when, like many years ago, they said the worst thing that could happen is you die and meet the version of yourself you could have become.
Yeah. Yeah, like so I think David Goggins said that that his biggest fear is like, going up in heaven, and the God is showing him the better version of him.
Mhm.
And this is who you could have been. And like,
Yeah,
what? My life could have been, yeah, you can't live like that. And
exactly.
knowing that, you're like, you don't want to live any other way. So, but we are living in society where things are, given a little bit, and um it's you're gonna have to go upstream. You're gonna
Yep.
have to work. You're gonna have to do what most won't.
Yep.
And that's how you get what most don't have. So
Absolutely. It's so true. There's been moments in my life where I'm like, I only got here because I decided to do something different. I decided to keep going. I
Exactly.
took a leap of faith.
Exactly.
Like some of
Yeah.
the best things in my life are because I took the leap of faith and went a direction that maybe wasn't expected, but it changed
Hmm.
everything.
It does. And when you have more of these experiences, you tend to lean into the next ones a little bit with more confidence. But initially it's fear, but you got to do it. How else are you going to know? The only way to find out is go through it. So
So
got to go
true.
right with it. Hmm.
And let's go to the whole starting
Hmm.
this prep being postpartum, because I think this
Hmm.
is a good conversation. So you started this prep 4 weeks postpartum. You also
Hmm.
trained throughout your whole meal prep throughout, or your whole
Yep.
pregnancy.
Yep. Yep.
So what do you think allowed you to be cleared so quickly? And how did you kind of get into prep mode from having a baby?
Mindset. Yeah, your body won't go where your mind doesn't. So I already knew I was gunning for the pro card when I was pregnant. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, it'll come. I just got to get this goal done too, have this baby, and then I got to go to my next goal, but I'm already preparing for it. So a lot of work happens in the off season, mentally preparation, your habits, fine tuning your training. So then when you're prepping, cutting, you they're already a well lubricated machine and just requires minor tweaks. It's not where you start learning a lot. It might be, but in order to continue excelling, like that progress slows down as you get more tired. So you got to think ahead. Okay, I don't want to pose right now because I'm tired. Well, you're 20 weeks out. Get up and pose because at 2 weeks out, you're going to pose twice a day, 3 times a day, maybe more. So you gotta um, condition yourself to that routine and those habits and that discomfort. It's no longer, and when you do, the more you do this, the more you're like, stop procrastinating, just do. You don't think about it next time. Then you don't. So for me, it was basically no other way out. Like, this is the goal I set, and it scared the hell out of me. How am I gonna? How am I going to earn my pro card after having a baby?
Mm.
Only one way to know. Give it my best every single day. So, and you think about it, okay, like my kids are watching me. I don't want my kids to, like, my older one, like, I don't want her to think that she can't do something. I want you to go and try it and give it your best. Like, not just, effort when you feel like it. Give it your best. So they're watching, right? And you, like, kids, especially kids, they don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do. So to me, that's everything. So you got to lead by example, not only for me but for others, right? That's the biggest, I think, biggest and best way to send a message across. Do.
Was there anything that went into your decision to expand your family before going to a season to earn your pro card?
Well, it was pandemic, right? So everything was kind of closed. Like, I prepped for a show that didn't happen, Toronto Pro Qualifier,
Oh.
and we flew there and it got canceled on a Thursday. So the show was on a Saturday. And like they tried, and the province just was shutting them down. They even went to different cities, and they just couldn't. So it was a Thursday, and my husband's like, "Well," and I'm like, "Oh, you're still picking me. I still have 2 days. I'm not wasting this trial because the show didn't happen. I did it to grow. So I'm gonna finish this growing process." And so I went and got self tan myself multiple times, did it like the show day, makeup, glam, everything. And what does that tell you? That tells you that, you know, you don't rely on the outside to grow on the inside.
Mm.
It's up to you. Take control. We choose how we react to things. 10% of things in life we can't control, but the 90% you can. So I took that control back into my own hands and peaked and got the data that I needed. So apply that data to this show after the baby. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's that mentality that I was like, if I can prep for a show that's not happening, that's always uncertain, guess what I'm gonna do knowing that the show is happening 100%? I'm going to be there. Yeah. So
That is a really great point that you took it all the way through to get the data and not to rely on the external to finish the job essentially. And you said you applied that to this prep. Were there differences that came up that maybe you guys weren't expecting due to being postpartum?
Well, so I breastfed for a year, right? So when you breastfeed, like your body holds onto that deer fat as much as possible, but the shapes were still coming. So the muscle was growing, and I mean, we're on a lot of more calories, so it's different. Um, and then I breastfed for a year, and after, we finished breastfeeding because she also has, the little one has a dairy allergy. So formula is, not an option, a lot of recall. So I was like, no, we're just going to stick with this. So we made sure my nutrients were high, my training was good, my sleep was, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
at a year, when I stopped breastfeeding, I also started sleeping more. So that's when things started happening. It doesn't matter where you're coming from after the baby, after the wedding, after the trip, whatever it is, that's your starting point. Your goal is to continue progressing from that point. That's it. You're not comparing it to the next. You're thinking of the data if it's needed, but you're not, because every time you're going to be different. So like, even peaking for the shows, none of my shows were the same. Like, they're not really the same. We're learning more and more, right? There's better ways to do things. Your hormones, how they change, right? After breastfeeding, your hormones are go through whole cycle. So, um, so yeah, it's just where you're at and improve from there. Make it simple. Don't overthink it. Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that perspective because I think not just myself, but others as well are thinking timelines for their life when they want to start a family,
Right.
what that looks like. And sometimes you just kind of get stuck on, but I'm here now, and but I was here, and what if this happens? But you bring up a really good point. It's not about everything that's happened, it's about what
Mm-hmm.
happens from that moment on or this moment on.
Mm-hmm.
So
What are you
I
going to do about it from here on? That's what matters. Yesterday already passed. Leave it there. Use it as data if it helps you move forward in some instances. If it doesn't, if all you're thinking, oh, I used to be there. No, no. Where you are now, where do you want to be from here? How bad do you want to be there? And what are you going to do about it? Not say, what are you going to do about it? So,
yes. And on the subject of the training and nutrition and just prepping, your husband was putting all this together and he obviously knew everything that was going on at home as well.
mhm, mhm.
So, did that play a role in how he was structuring the timing of your amount of cardio or nutrition, training, things of that nature, other than just making sure you have the nutrients you need?
Right. So, yes, when we were breastfeeding, right? When I was breastfeeding. So, yes, we wanted to make sure we are high on foods and good foods and making sure that Valentina is growing well, pediatrician appointments, great to analyze that. So, and then just watching the progress week to week. If I'm making progress, I'm full and she's growing, we're good. We just hit those numbers and that's it. We keep going. And then, structuring, it's harder a little bit when your husband, closer to prep, it's harder when your husband is doing it because he has to disassociate himself from that he's my husband, that I'm the mother of his child, and he needs to look at me as an athlete because then he can think critically for what's needed for my physique rather than taking in what's happening in our lives. And I make sure that I let him know, listen, if I need to do 30,000 steps, I'm going to do it. If I need to wake up at 3 in the morning or earlier, I mean, I wake up at 3, I'm going to do it. If yes, I'm back to work, and if I'm working 10 hours sometimes, and it's like, I am gonna do what I need to do, so don't pause. And but like just reassuring. But he also does that. He needs to check. He does. He checks in with himself, to make sure that he's not getting personal. So we're trying to separate the coach and the husband. aspect of it, which is it's a challenge, but it's exactly what we need. We need to separate the two, how we are as athlete and coach and how we are as husband and wife. So
Mm. Have you noticed like that challenge being like bringing certain lessons, or is it
oh yeah,
something, yeah,
yeah,
about your relationship and about
so much better. Every time, like, I mean, we've been together for 8 years, married for 4, and it's like we have a baby and our relationship is just continue evolving. Why? Because we're both committed. We are invested. We push each other to reach our new best that we're proud of ourselves and of each other. And like that's why our business is flourishing. We're doing it, because we love what we do, and we make sure we check in with ourselves and continue dating ourselves when we're not, athlete and coach. But yeah, just separate the two because it gives you a break from each one. So
yes, I love that. That's super insightful.
mhm.
And before I get some of your advice for listeners, I want to know what your goals are in this industry, not just as an athlete, but also as a coach yourself.
Hmm. Goal. Honestly, continuing to excel, continuing having that same drive to wanting to learn, to stay in the learning role. Not that the two things that I tell people, I don't like. I don't think I will never say I made it, because that means you're now stopped learning because you think you're good enough, and I'm retired because
Mm.
again you've stopped learning. It's those type of words that I try to stay away. I will always continue working. I will always find new things to do. And in the posing world, I want to continue looking for ways to help people connect with their bodies, because everyone's so different. But to help them connect faster and bring out that confidence within them. And
Mm.
that's sometimes challenging because there's so many variables that in athletes' life that play into that, right? And that's really what I would love to see. It's not the outcome, it's the process. The outcome
Mm.
will happen. I want the process, and I want to see how I can continue progressing, and more athletes means more challenges. And some of them do repeat. So I'm like, okay, I know how to work with that. I know how to work with this. This one, that's new. Yeah. So that's what I want. I want challenges. I want them coming at me so I can learn. Because
That's
that's why I work in a trauma center with crazy, trauma cases, and they're all different. And that's why I stay there, because it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me learning about who I am and how much I can handle. And if I can't handle, I recoup and go back in there so I can handle it again. So
That's super awesome. I love that that theme has carried in so many areas of your life for a very long time, and you found it as a beneficial thing for you, and it
yeah,
fuels you, it drives you.
yep,
So I appreciate you sharing so much. I mean, the tips you gave for posing to your story, I mean, it's
yeah.
been really, really amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you though that you wish that I would have asked you?
Hmm. No, I don't think so. I mean, our topic just kind of goes, and it just
There's
branches. But you're right, the theme is the same because that's how I choose to live my life. There's, you like it comes down to that you are in the driver's seat. Where do you want to go? And for me, I want to keep going to new places, explore new levels, new challenges. And, like I said, you're the driver. So just and learning the best thing in this life, how I feel is getting to know who you are. Like this life, like I remember somebody told me like, oh, like listen to what your body says. I was like, how do you do that? How does someone do that? It's your inner voice and then you connecting with your body, listening. Okay, it doesn't like this. You know, you're training and something's like feeling off. You're like, yeah, I'm not gonna push it. That's my gut feeling there. Or, you know, you wake up and something's off, you trust that. And the more you're quiet and tune in, then you can hear what your body's saying, what your mind is saying. But you also got to work at it. You know, you got to work your body. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to move. It's meant to, you know, evolve our brains too, everything. Like if you look back, you know, how we've evolved as humans and technology and everything, you're capable of a lot. Just got to have an open mind. So it's like, where are you driving? Where are you going? So that's basically the theme. You're in the driver's seat. What are you going to do about it? Where are you going to go? How are you going to, you know, get over that speed bump? You know, yeah, all those things. So
This might tie in then to my
mhm,
last question, which
mhm.
is what is your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro?
Okay. So if you've never competed, the first thing I always ask my athletes, like even first time posing clients, why are you doing it? Your why has to be solid. It has to bring you back into that grind when things get tough. So why are you doing it? And sometimes it takes a while for them to get to it. And then after they get to it, I'm like, there, that's your why. Um, and you know, for athletes who have done amateur shows and continuing, you know, doing pro qualifier shows, don't give up. Like just be, you know, like there's so many of us who've done many pro qualifiers and didn't win the pro card. Truthfully, we weren't ready for it. When you're ready for it, you're acting like one, you're walking like one, you moving like one, you're looking like one. That pro card is not a status that you've been behaving as a professional athlete. You've already been doing that up until the show. And when you're ready, you already know. You already know when you're going to earn that pro card. You just feel it because your mindset is so different. You're like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get there. And you're not fearing the challenges. Don't fear the challenges. Don't feel that's exactly what I look forward to. The plateaus, this is where I grow. Some people are like, oh, we hit another plateau. Good. Get out of it. How do you do that? Push forward. Well, you know, you're in charge. So don't and the pro qualifier shows can be intimidating. Do your posing. It goes a long way because I've seen athletes who walk on and should have won and they didn't because their mandatory poses aren't there or they can't hold them for long enough. They've said that. High level judges will say it that, you know, they put you through another round and they see an athlete just deteriorating and you're no longer holding your shape. So they can't give it to you. So practice your posing, but do behave in a way that when you're backstage, you're content with everything you've done and you're ready to showcase your 100% best. Then there's zero doubt.
That's really awesome advice
Mhm,
and truly encouraging as well, no matter where you're at in the journey.
mhm.
So I've enjoyed connecting with you. I want others
Mhm.
to follow your journey, learn from you even more. So how can they not just connect with you, but also work with you?
Well, like on my Instagram, catwalk underscore academy, catwalk with the K. A lot of people call me Cat. Um, and you know, if you want to follow me on Instagram, 2_4 BIDDEN, 2_, so forbidden. Normally it started with the things that I can't eat. And
Huh.
now it's like, okay, it's like, oh, this is forbidden. This is forbidden. And that just tells you what kind of mindset I was in. It's like, it's forbidden. It's like, now I just don't want it. That's not what I do. I don't need that. No, I don't need that either. No, it doesn't do anything for me. So it's interesting how that evolved, but the name stayed. So,
That is interesting. I was
so
curious about your name. I should have asked that. I'm glad you shared it.
oh yeah, that's like I thought about it now. I was like, yeah, that's not where my mindset is now, but that's where it originated, right? Forbidden. I can't have this, can't have that, can't do this. No, I choose not to because you're striving to be better, and it takes time to get there. But yeah, that's how they can reach out to me through their DM through there. Um, any other questions?
No, you're truly
No?
so impressive and
Oh, thank you.
inspiring. So well
Thank you.
spoken. Absolutely. It's been my pleasure to have you on the show, and I
Mhm.
can't wait for everybody to hear this. And if you guys are listening, tag us about what you took away from this. Let us know you listened. Share it with your friends. Of course, if you go to
Yeah, I'm
celestial.fit/podcast.
excited. And if there's anything, anything to like, I listen to your podcasts and it's very, even going into the pro show. So I find that and it's nice to be able to give back. And like
Oh,
now I'm on it, so it's
wow,
cool,
that's
to share
cool.
my knowledge and my experiences and hoping that somebody can find something useful that they're like, you know what, that stuck with me just like it did for me. So thank you for
Aw.
inviting me and thank you for, having me on here. It's like I didn't prepare for this anyway.
Yeah.
Like I just spoke from the heart and
Mm.
yeah, I'm hoping that one day in the future we can do this again.
Oh, that would be so awesome. I love hearing that too. That just made my day. So thank you so much. And you guys who are tuning in, visit celestial.fit/podcast for all the show notes, links, timestamps, everything that we just mentioned. And then, of course, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.